Hi, I'm State Representative Dan Moul from the 91st Legislative District here in Adams County. Welcome to this month's edition of Legislative Reports. I'm here at the Adams County Emergency Center located in Strabane Township off of Granite Station Road. With me today is John Eline and Donna Powers. John, you are the Executive Director?
Well, Director of Emergency Services.
Director of Emergency Services. And Donna?
I am the 911 coordinator for the 911 center.
And the coordinator, your position does what?
I manage the center.
You're like the head honcho.
Well, yes.
You manage the center. And John, you take care of overall operations?
Right. My responsibilities are administratively, the 911 center, emergency management, also our hazmat response for the county, and also kind of a liaison person with first responders across the county, fire, law enforcement, EMS.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I came here today to speak with you is I myself don't realize just how busy you are here, how important this center is in Adams County, the volume of calls that you get. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those that every once in a while I'll see a fire truck or an ambulance go by, and that's about all I see. And I'm just the average Joe. But here, you see the whole county. Mm-hmm. And when you multiply that out, I understand you get about how many calls come in here in a month's time?
Oh, probably 14, 15,000.
Mm-hmm.
14 or 15,000 phone calls come into this center every month. And you've got to discern which ones are real emergencies,
Yes.
who to dispatch, police officer, fire, ambulance. I mean, you've got to take care of the whole gamut.
Yep.
And 14,000 phone calls keeps quite a few people busy. How many people work here in the center every day, or how many people do you have employed here?
Well, we have 15 full-timers and 18 part-timers. We have 4 around the clock at all times, except Friday from 2300 to 03. We have 5. When we have a DUI,
is that the bar letting out time?
well,
I know it's
that's
Friday
after
night, but is there a reason for that particular time?
No, that's just the way. Friday nights are pretty steady. Yeah, between
busy time, people getting themselves.
And then the shifts overlap there at that point. But yeah, when we have a DUI checkpoint, we have 5 people on too for that.
Is that a common thing? We have several of those in a month's time, or is it random?
The checkpoints? We have checkpoints and rovings. That's not sponsored by us. That's sponsored by the DUI task force.
Okay.
We have one of those over the summer, one every month.
Okay.
You know, the rovings start at the fall.
That keeps you hopping. Mm-hmm. What else do we use the building for? I mean, I understand that there's fire training here as well.
Donna mentioned the number of full-time and part-time dispatchers that we have, but then there are 6 people administratively that work in the department that have responsibilities other than the 911 center, and that includes emergency management and hazmat response. And there's a lot of record keeping, a lot of reporting that we have to provide to the state because of the funding sources.
Okay.
So, and then in addition to us, on the first floor of our facility, the Red Cross has an office here, and they lease space from the county, and they have 1 person that works here in the building. But we work very closely with the Red Cross, so I think it's great that we have them in this facility as well. But in addition to that, the Adams County Volunteer Emergency Services Group, the firefighters and fire police, that's right. Mm-hmm. They do their training in this facility on the first floor and outside. So they use this facility quite a bit. But the building is used by a lot of different groups. Law enforcement uses the facility, fire police, the EMTs use the building. A lot of the county departments, use this building for their meetings, and some use it for their training, including the sheriff's department and the prison staff.
Well, there's classrooms downstairs, I noticed.
Right, we have actually we have 4 classrooms downstairs and a small conference room, but there's also an engine bay that's used for training purposes as well.
So ACPO, which is the transportation,
they meet
have the
here.
COG that meets here. Just about any county organization can use this building as their place to have their meetings and educate.
Right, right. The Red Cross does training here in this building as well, so another reason why I like having them in this building.
They give first aid training here?
Yeah.
Do they do
Yes.
that here
Yeah.
as well?
Right.
Been a long time since I've been through any of that. I don't know if I could pass it, although I probably should feel ashamed that I'm not staying current with it, but maybe someday you'll see me out here pushing on a dummy.
Yeah. In addition to that, too, the hospital uses the facility now.
Oh, really?
They're using
Okay.
it monthly. They do a blood screening downstairs one Wednesday each month. So there's a lot of people in and out of this facility, and I think, thanks to them, I think a lot more people have found where this building is, and we get a little bit more exposure. But not many people come upstairs. They have no need to come upstairs.
Right.
We do get tours periodically, and we encourage people to come see the 911 center. We're more than happy to explain how it works, because that's part of public education. And that's always a big part of our responsibility is teaching people how to use 911, when to use 911, and what 911 is really for.
Okay. Well, it sounds like this building gets plenty of use, and which is a good thing. And to me, whoever laid it out, I think really thought way ahead with the classrooms downstairs and putting
Yeah.
the center, the call center, upstairs. Like you say, who really needs to come up here? But everyone needs to go downstairs for their training and
Right.
so forth. So whoever thought about this, after seeing the layout, I got to give them a little kudos on this one. I think they did a pretty good job. But from here, we want to go back into the actual call center. When you dial 911, where the calls go to, and and you'll show us a little bit about what goes on back in that room, hopefully without disturbing the people working there.
Okay, sure.
We don't want to mess anybody up, that's for sure. So I'll tell you what,
Not
if
a
you'll
problem.
lead the way, I'll follow you.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good.
John, Donna, we're in the call center
Yes.
Yep.
room. So this room is actually nicknamed the call center, but this is where all the 911 calls come to. When
Right.
you are at home, you dial 911 in Adams County, somebody behind one of these computers here is going to hit a button and say 911.
Right. Right.
And,
We have a couple of names for this place.
okay,
It's the Emergency Communications Center, it's County Control, the 911 Center, or the call center.
so then the call comes in here, and each one of these, is it just random as to who gets the call, or is it whoever's not on a call at the time?
Well,
And
with,
what happens if all four of the people that you have working each are handling
Okay.
the call, and the fifth one comes in? Is that bounced somewhere else? I'm throwing a lot on you at one time.
well, we're not big enough to have a call taker. Okay, so we have 4 around the clock. These
Okay.
4 positions right here. Although we can max out at 6, 2 more positions. But if you look at our layout over here, this side is the fire board, fire and EMS. I'm sorry, fire and police board, police board, police board. The fire dispatcher is normally the least busiest as far as fires. They get ambulance calls and things like that. They're the first to answer the phone. So not everybody's running for the phone and jumping on the line to try to get it. He answers first. Then if he's on the phone, it will go to her, this board here. And then it goes to this one and then this one, in that succession. If they're all busy, it's just a free-for-all.
Okay.
And if we get a vehicle accident on US 15, everybody has a cell phone. It's
You're
just,
getting-
you just get what you can.
You're getting an abundance of calls on the same situation,
Right.
on the
Right,
same
right.
issue.
You just
Everybody
do
wants
the
to
best
call
you
and
can.
report it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's,
And I understand that.
Yeah.
So, how I guess the people that are working will actually just say, once they've got the first 4 or 5 calls on
Right.
it, they just have to respond and say, we're on top of that
right.
one?
They just verify that it's the same accident. Because
Okay.
we've had where there was 2 accidents within a mile of each other.
Oh yeah, that
And
would
that
be
has
confusing.
happened. Yeah, because either they were gawking at the first. I don't know how
Well,
it started, but
I think
we
they
have
call
to
that
verify.
rubbernecking.
Yeah, we have to verify that it's the accident that they're responding to. But they've worked together so well that they pretty well know that after the 3rd ring and that nobody else is getting it, that they'll hop on and answer it.
Okay.
So we try to get it on the 2nd ring,
All right.
the line when it rings. But we can
So-
show you then too.
Well,
what a call
I'm
looks
looking. I'm looking forward to that. But what else do we take care of in this room? Is it just strictly the 911 calls in here?
Well, when you say 911, we take everything. We take non-emergency calls, which could be controlled burns, basement floodings when you have a lot of rain, any kind of, no one should call here without us being able to help them. If we cannot send help, we know, or give them the proper help that they need, or can't answer the question, we have a number that they can call to get the answer.
So
we always have a number for somebody.
You have 911, and then there's a regular dial-up number.
Which is a 10-digit number.
717?
Yeah, 717. Well, they don't have to dial that, but we say 10 digits. So
Okay.
717-334-8101 is a...
8101.
Yes, that used to be the
It
original.
Kind of rhymes, 8101. And you get many calls that people are calling in on that 8101 number when they think it's a non-emergency, but it turns out to be, that's a full-fledged emergency. But that's okay. Either one will work.
Right, yes. They can call on any of our lines and have an
But
emergency.
you don't want somebody
yeah.
to call 911 to say, I'm going to have a controlled burn.
That doesn't bother us either.
Oh, really?
You know,
Okay.
if they're calling from a wired line, everything populates right into the computer and we don't have to type it in. It's already there.
So
Every call that comes in gets an
Well,
in.
keep in mind too that, you know, if they're going to do a controlled burn, you know, it's good for
Yeah.
us to know that.
Yeah.
So that if somebody calls and reports seeing smoke, you know,
Okay.
we're not sending fire companies out there. We can tell them, look, we know about this fire.
Right.
You know, it's being taken care of. The property owner's doing it. It's under control.
Yeah. See, I was one of those guys. I did controlled burns, you know, from time to time with my old business, and you know, I would always call whatever that number was, and back then it was a 624 number because I
We
was
have
going
those.
out of New
Yeah.
Oxford. I want to say 3101. That's
2101.
2101. That was close.
Close.
I took a shot. It's been a long time. But, you know, I was always afraid to use 911 to say, hey, I'm going to do a controlled burn. But
Majority of the people do call the 10-digit.
Okay.
There's some that, you know, if they're out at their getting ready to burn, don't have the number with them. They'll have their cell. They'll just dial the 911 and call it in.
Now you say that most of the calls or all the calls that come in on a landline, the computer automatically has the address.
No,
Oh, it does not?
no.
Okay.
If it's a 10-digit, no. Just the 911. If they dial 911 from a wired line, it has to be wired.
So if somebody
It'll
walks in
populate their
house,
address.
grabs the phone that's on the wall.
Yes.
That's hardwired in, and
Their
they dial
address will come-
911,
yes.
Their address pops up. But if I'm in that same house in the same room and I use my cell phone, how do you know where they're calling from?
That we don't.
And how do
Well-
we track that?
We can track by what's the word I want to use now?
Triangulating?
Triangulating.
We can no, but we can peg. Actually, that's not the word I want to use.
But that's okay.
I can't remember the word, but
you-
anyhow,
you can
yes, we can
locate
pick- yes.
where that cell phone is.
We can approximate where that call comes from, but most cellular phones today that are the new ones that are made have a chip in them, you know, so that we can locate that.
When we say locate, we have a
GIS
map on our computer screen that will plot it. That's the word I wanted to use.
Right.
Plot it on the map. It doesn't give us an address. It'll give us a road on the map, but it doesn't populate into the wording part. It just shows us on a map where they're at.
So I have a fairly new Droid. That's probably
There's probably a GPS chip in that.
Yeah.
And this phone, if I walked out in your parking lot and dialed 911,
You can just dial it from in here.
and it would say this phone is located at
We hope.
these coordinates.
Close
At least
enough.
that's the way it's supposed to work.
Close enough.
So if somebody is driving on a road they're not familiar with, and they call in on a cell phone, they say, I came up on an accident, but I don't know where I am.
Right.
I'm in a whole new part of the county I've never been in, or they're from out of state or whatever.
Right.
They don't know that they're on Low Dutch Road or wherever. They just know that they came on an accident.
Right.
This will actually guide you.
Actually, it could populate or track where they're at, but not all phones.
Not all phones.
It might not do it on the first time. So nothing is ever 100%.
So some of the
especially
old-
with technology.
So some
You
of the
know.
old cell phones that
Old
have the
cell phones.
rotary dial phone in it, they wouldn't be able to
No,
do that.
you know that. No, that'll work. It'll still work as long as it's wired.
So
It's
the old,
the cell phone that
Yeah.
sometimes it will plot and sometimes it won't.
Okay.
It might not be a phase 2 type phone, which is one of your
so
modern
what do you
phones.
do in a situation where somebody says, don't know where I am, I'm new here, but I came upon this accident, this person needs
We
help.
ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
We may
And
ask
you-
them to go to the mailbox.
You try to figure it out.
Yeah, we have to ask.
What's
them on
what's
that
nearby?
What's
what do
nearby,
you
yeah.
see that's nearby, or do you remember the name of the last exit that you passed?
Yeah.
Another thing that's very important, and I think you had something to do with it, was the mile markers on
Yes, I
Route
did.
15. I mean,
Yes, thank you.
we
That was
wanted
a
those
big
for a
help.
long time, and now that they're there, it's a big help to the dispatchers.
It's amazing when you ask the right person to do something,
Yeah.
how easy it is to actually get it done. I don't take full credit for that. All I did was make a few phone calls, and they managed to work it into the budget for that job, and
Well, you know,
it was done. But I'm glad that we got it done.
Right.
it does help us, you know, especially with the amount of people that travel through Adams County.
That are not
you
from
know,
here, yeah.
Right, that are not from here.
The Barlow and the Gettysburg guys particularly called me relentlessly saying, we need these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we understand.
Because
that.
they kept sending, people wouldn't know where they were, so they'd guess, or somebody
Right.
would send, and they'd say, well, they were only 2 miles away,
Right.
and sent us 8 miles, or 10 miles, could have been there
Yep.
quicker, whatever. I was glad to be able to
And the
to help
reason
with
is
that.
simple. I mean, it's time. When somebody's in trouble, they need help immediately.
Right.
Oh, sure.
You know,
Sure.
the quicker you can get that ambulance to them, or the police officer, whoever, the better, the better off that they are. So
Yeah, time is
that helps.
life-saving.
Right.
We actually had a girl call. One example, call on her cell phone. She was intoxicated, but she was in a cornfield, and we plotted her.
In a cornfield.
Yeah, she was in a cornfield,
Now,
but she was on foot and she was a little intoxicated. So,
Well-
but her cell phone plotted. We did plot her, so we did.
I guess that makes for one of those humorous.
Well-
And we have to be on the phone with them. If once they hang up, it doesn't plot.
We,
Okay.
we
So-
deal with people
yeah,
in
of all
some of the
natures.
worst circumstances.
I am
and
sure that
under
you-
bad
You
circumstances.
have heard just about every
Yeah.
Yeah.
story. Sometime when you retire, you could probably write a book of
Well-
911 experiences.
Yeah, some good, some not so good.
We, our job is to help them. Regardless of the circumstances. We.
As far as privacy information now, when you go to a hospital, everything that you do there is 100% private, the HIPAA laws. What kind of rules, regulations are there with 911 centers as far as privacy? Can somebody come in here and request a right to know and find out who called in for services, who dialed 911, when they dialed it, what they needed, their names, addresses? Is all that kept private, or is that open to the public? I don't know.
Right.
Well, it depends on who you talk to, but
Well, from a
Oh,
law enforcement
right.
standpoint and the court standpoint, I mean, they can, the courts and the attorneys can, you know more about this than
Right.
I do, but who can request information?
now if someone wants to come in and listen to a phone call, they have to have a subpoena.
Yeah.
Even law enforcement
Okay,
has to have a
so-
subpoena to get a
so-
copy of the tape. Now
Okay.
if the fire or the newspaper, they have they can come in and they can get streets without the address, right?
Right.
Of where the calls were, but they can't get a house number. They can't get to who the caller was, but
Okay.
they can get that there was an ambulance call or a fire call on this street. But they don't know what block, what the house number is. So they can get limited information,
So in that sense, we do protect the
yeah.
caller and the identity of
Right.
the caller.
Okay.
I'm still kind of amazed that on some of these TV shows, they actually, and even on the national networks, they, run tapes from 911 centers, because that's not that easy to get in the state of Pennsylvania.
So it would take a judge's order for the most
Well-
part. in
Well,
order to-
once if I gave someone a copy of a tape, whether it be someone who got it with a subpoena, what they do with it, I can't stop them.
Yeah.
It could be an attorney, it can be a police officer, it can be the county if they want it to go out over the radio or the phone or over the TV. Once it's out of my hands, they had the subpoena. That's theirs.
but it takes a judge's subpoena in order to
get a copy of it.
receive
But in those
that.
cases, it's
Yeah.
usually used,
for law. Yeah.
trial.
Court of law.
Court of
Yeah.
law, right.
I get that. So for the most part, people's identity and their private information it remains just that here
Right.
as well.
Right. We
Unless-
tried. Yeah.
Unless a judge says otherwise.
That's part of our ethical standards and
Correct.
being in this business too, is that you don't leave here with stories and talk about calls that you got and who it was and so forth.
Right.
So we're very professional about
Yeah.
that.
I'm sure. Everything I've seen so far, I agree 100%, and hardworking people as well. So I understand that we're going to go take a look at as to how the system works. We're going to plug in one
Right.
of your addresses, and
We're going to dial 911 from one of our black phones and have Stephanie answer it, and then you'll see on the screen how it works across on our CAD system.
You'll actually see the facility's address.
Yeah, our
We're gonna
address
use
here.
230 Greenemeyer Lane.
excellent.
that
Let's
you
go
can
take
see
a look
that.
at that.
Sure.
This is what it looks like when someone dials 911. And that's what you hear as far as the sound. Go ahead and answer it.
Adams County 911.
The dispatcher answer Adams County 911. Just because of this, the way it sounds and the screen pops up, we know it's a 911 call and not a 10-digit. Okay. I don't know if you can see on here, but what it'll show is the phone number that it's coming from, which is us here, our address. Usually if it's a person like a homeowner, they'll have the homeowner's name there, the address, and the municipality from where they're at.
So all this is done automatically?
Automatically from a wired line.
From a wired line?
Wired line, yes.
But if I were to dial that 911 standing here off of my cell phone,
You wouldn't get an address. You may get a phone number.
and then she would have to ask me questions
Or plot
to
you, yeah.
locate me or try to plot me
Right,
with my GPS.
right. This is our trunk lines, and this over here. Usually we can tell what area it's coming from. Carlisle area, the Carlisle trunk lines, Chambersburg, but they would come across in here. We have 10-digit 9s down here. We have where we can dial also a direct line to other counties that surround us. Everything that comes up on the phone over here will populate into our CAD screen over here. The name will automatically go in, the address will automatically go in. And then what she'll do is she'll verify the name and the address. You never assume that's correct. She'll ask the caller their name, because it may not be the person's name that's on here. It might be the wife or the kid or something. Their address, their municipality, because we have roads that have the same, like Smith Road. I think there's a couple of them in different municipalities. She will ask what the problem is, and if it's a police incident, let's say it's, for example, it's a domestic, she will ask additional questions as to where it's happening at. Is it happening from this location, this address? She will add this in here where it says incident location. Once it verifies, it'll also give the cross streets and the coordinates. Let's say it's a domestic dispute in progress. We have incident types that she'll put in above there. It gives it a priority 1. She'll go over here and ask specific questions, and she'll document that in the comments field. She may ask who's involved, if there's alcohol or weapons involved, anyone's injured, where the person is that that may have done the striking, how bad the domestic is. It might be a domestic that is not in progress, the perpetrator left. She has to pretty well keep them on the phone if it's if it's in progress. That's an officer safety issue. Mm-hmm. So we know what's going on when they get there.
So just in a few minutes that
293-22177.
that we've been here, she's handled 3 or 4 different
She's
calls.
multitasking, yes.
She's doing more than one call at a time.
Right, she's handling his board and her board. She actually has a couple of police department channels. Plus she backs him up. If he's out of the room, she can cover his fireboard. These CADs are redundant. They can all do the same.
Right.
She could dispatch fire and EMS from over there if she wanted to. But we try not to do that. We try to limit it to this side, because we only have one radio and only one person can talk on. Otherwise, you're stepping on each other.
I see.
What you see here are calls that are active or on hold. Okay, that you can see that in this case we had the sheriff's department. They're out on a transport service or a warrant service. It tells you what that officer or that ambulance is doing. This ambulance from McSherrystown and the medic unit is on a chest pain call. Down here it tells us where they're at. If they're en route to the hospital, en route to the scene. So we know if they got there or not. Police department. So she's covering
It's operator 12, Adams County 911.
on scene is OS. So they have codes right here. It's almost like a computer game. You got your little ambulances.
How long
your little
does it
trucks.
take for someone who's starting out new at this job to be able to do what this young lady's doing now?
We average 600 hours.
600 hours?
We do like 80 hours to 100 hours in our classroom next door. They got to learn the maps, the departments, both fire and EMS and police departments. Once they pass over there, then they come over here and they learn call taking only. They got to learn how to answer the phone and then document into the CAD system. That's call taking.
Really low.
Once they've completed that and tested, then they go to police board. And they learn all about the police and dispatching them and asking the questions for calls for them, because it's totally different from fire and EMS.
Totally different.
Law enforcement is totally different as far as questioning than it is on fire and EMS. Fire and EMS is scripted when you dispatch. Police, you just tell it like it is.
Okay, Donna, John, we're in a room that is next to the call center.
Right.
That is a special room here at the emergency training facility. And what is this room all about?
Well, this is the County Emergency Operations Center. And in the event that there were a major disaster in the county, this is the room that we would activate. And we have staff that are trained, to perform a lot of different functions in here. But our primary role is to support, the first responders that are on the scene of that incident. If they need additional resources, if they need manpower, if they need equipment or whatever, this is where we would help them. This is where we would work to get them those resources. We have phones in here. We have ways of contacting the state. We can get assistance from the state or from neighboring counties, even from neighboring states if we have to get assistance, to respond to an incident. And we're talking generally about a large incident, say there's a plane crash or something like that. Or even if it's a mass casualty incident on Route 15, something like that, that would really strain.
Something major, a flood
Right.
or a hurricane would just happen to come through here. And
An incident that would really tax our ability as a county to respond
so
to that incident.
You would have, this room would then fill up with personnel and volunteers
Our
as well?
personnel, the county personnel that are trained to work in here, but we would also probably have somebody from fire, the Red Cross, Pennsylvania State Police, National Guard, agriculture, some additional county employees that have special training in responding to and assessing damage, after some kind of an incident. And this is where we would coordinate all of that, bring all those people together, so that we're in one room, we can talk together, we can figure things out and come up with a plan, strategize on how we're going to respond to an
So
incident.
this is Adams County's version of the underground Pentagon. It's right here,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Maybe
Reading
that-
of the minds.
Right.
We get all the resources because over there we're limited on resource. When he
Right.
opens it up over here, we have other people that are gathering the resources.
And one of the things that I learned early on in this position was that most of the incidents that occur in Adams County, the dispatchers do handle. I mean, that's our first line of defense. They're the ones that dispatch law enforcement, fire police, EMS, and so forth to the scene of an incident. But where this kicks in is when it's almost too much for them to handle. Then they need help. And that's when we activate the Emergency Operations Center.
So then people can radio and talk and communicate and do whatever they need to do from here to those different
That's
scenes.
right. We would communicate directly
Right.
with the incident commander at the scene of the incident.
So this is Command Central.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
You might ask, when have we ever activated this? And fortunately, in the time that I've been here,
actually I
we've,
was just going to ask that.
okay, we've not had to activate it. So more times than none, what we use this room for is for training purposes.
Right.
Even though we don't have incidents on a regular basis, fortunately, but we still have to maintain our skills. We need to remember what we're supposed to do when we're in here if it would happen. So we probably exercise and do drills in here about 4, 5, 6 times a year, just to keep everybody tuned
Sharp,
and ready
yeah. Right.
to
Ready
go
to
if
roll.
something does happen. Probably the last time that we really had to reach beyond just the dispatchers in an incident in Adams County were the back-to-back snowstorms in 2010.
Right.
I remember the first weekend that it snowed, it wasn't so bad, but when we had that snow on Tuesday through Thursday morning, it got bad
Yeah.
because there were a lot of traffic accidents. There were a lot of people out on the road that were sightseeing that shouldn't have been. There were, people that we needed to get emergency vehicles out. We needed to assist the municipalities in clearing the snow, and there were people that had to be rescued. So we didn't necessarily use this room, but that kind of put our skills to test, during the snowstorm. And then during the recent flooding too, we had a lot going on here that we had to help with from the office
9/11
standpoint.
was partially, this is before we were in this building, but 9/11 was a partial activation.
And that was because of the number of phone calls
Oh,
that
yeah.
you received.
It was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm quite sure when something like that happens, and probably back when 3 Mile Island was approaching the meltdown, lots of people were just
Yep.
panicking, and
Yep.
so it's good to know that we have a place like this that's ready at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that if we do have a major disaster, catastrophe, incident, whatever here in Adams County, we have good people like yourselves and volunteers that can come in here, staff this, and run this as Command Central to make sure everything out in the field goes as smoothly as possible,
Right.
get everyone help.
Right.
After all, it's all about public safety.
And that's an important part of, in fact, what you just said, because we don't respond to the scene of the incident, but the emergency management side of what we do here is to help coordinate the response to that incident. And again, to make sure that they have the resources they need to do the job out there.
Well, that's fantastic. I'll tell you, I have learned so much today, because I'll be the first one to admit, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm learning. I'm learning leaps and bounds on, since I've been in this position that I have, about all facets. But with the emergency services, it's not just that fire truck or that ambulance or that police officer rolling down the street. It takes a whole network of people behind him or behind that truck or that apparatus to make sure that gets to where it's going as quickly and safely as possible.
Right.
And most people don't see that side of it. They say, oh, it's just a fire truck. How much can it cost? Well,
Right.
they don't see all of what we were shown today. And that's why I'm so grateful for both of you to take your time out of your busy schedules and show us what goes on here at the 911 Center, the Emergency Management Center here in Adams County. And I certainly do appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you very much for tuning in to this month's edition of Legislative Reports. I'm State Representative Dan Moul, and my contact information will follow just after this. Thank you.